The Warriors finally made their trade, and they're getting Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat. Andrew Wiggins is headed off to the Heat. They're also in this trade sending Dennis Schroeder to the Jazz. I'm not all that excited about this trade. If you just look at the statistics, you're getting a similar player. You're giving up Wiggins to get Butler. That's what you see when you just look at the numbers. But obviously there is a difference, and I'm going to get to the reasons why I don't like this trade. Wiggins was always a little too laid back. He was always a little too passive in his time with the Warriors. The best that the Warriors got from Wiggins was one All-Star appearance, and the best he ever played was in the 22 playoffs and the finals. That was the best he ever played, and it was a great time for him to really play like the player everyone thought he was going to be, to reach his potential for such a short period of time. And he'll be remembered for that as a good Warrior. That he stepped up, and they would not have won that series against the Celtics without him. I mean, he played great against Jason Tatum, especially. I mean, he gave Jason Tatum some fits in that finals. And the Warriors really needed him because it was post-Durant. Klay Thompson wasn't playing particularly well in that finals, and he helped the Warriors capture their 4th NBA title. What you get from Jimmy Butler is someone who's more aggressive, someone who's on the attack, and someone who can really take a game over. And you have someone who I believe is driven, someone who wants to be with the Warriors, and someone who has the fire and the desire to win because he has not been to the mountaintop. Yet he's been close. He's lost 2 finals. It was against the Lakers and then against the Nuggets, where his teams were overmatched in both finals. He was the guy. Now, going to the Warriors, Curry's clearly the number 1. He's the number 2. I mean, what makes it work is that both of these players, Curry and Butler, have lost a step. They're no longer in their prime. I mean, look at the 3, if you want to call them the big players on this team. They're not young players. I mean, Curry, Butler, and Green. But they have each other to fall back on. You know, it doesn't have the load does not need to all fall on Curry. If he's not having a particularly great game, Jimmy Butler can step up, and vice versa. That's the positive. And in the present, I do believe it makes the Warriors better. But this is why I don't like the trade. This is a team that's been hovering around 500 all year long. And right now, they are, let's face it, a thin team. They're just not a good basketball team. That's the reality of the situation. They are not a good basketball team. You can make all the excuses you want. They're not good. And acquiring Jimmy Butler, to me, is not good enough. They may get into the playoffs, but is that what you want? Just to get into the playoffs with him? Because, you'll look at the record now. I mean, they are really on the outside looking in, because I don't really count, if you're hovering around a play-in spot, I don't really consider that a playoff team. And if you're in that conversation, you are not a good basketball team. So you go from being that to potentially, maybe you're the 8th team in the West. I don't know. I mean, what is the best they can do, even if they go on a run of some sort? And what would a run be for the Warriors? I mean, they've been hovering around 500 for so long now, after the great start. And really, if you take away that great start, they've been playing well under 500 for a long time. They still are too small. This doesn't fix everything they have. I mean, it just doesn't fix the problems they have. They're not a deep team. Now they're even thinner. And Wiggins did bring some positives to this team. I mean, you get a good defender as well in Jimmy Butler. I mean, they essentially play the same position. They have very similar statistics. But you got a little bit older. How does this make the Warriors just leaps and bounds better? It doesn't. I mean, the best this team, or this version of the Warriors, if they can bring it together and Jimmy Butler fits in well. I mean, it's going to take time to learn to play together. I mean, that's the whole thing we're talking about the Lakers with LeBron and Luka. It's going to take time. I mean, just imagine what it's going to be like. I think in some ways it's going to be easier with the Warriors, but go back to Durant trying to blend in with the rest of the team. It took time, and you're already in the beginning of February. You have a very short amount of games to gel and work together and see how you fit together. It's not just going to click immediately. So it's just going to take time to adjust to one another. But they lack size still. They're old. All these guys could get injured. And perhaps they come together. And then, Kuminga. I will say positive about this is Kuminga did not get traded. Yet. I like that. But they didn't just give up the whole team's future. But if this all comes together, my point is, how far can they possibly go? They get past the first round, and everyone keeps saying, well, you got to make the most of this championship window. It's just, after a while, just shut up. They are not going to make it even to the Western Conference Finals. That would be a dream. I would be shocked if they got past the first round. That is the best they could possibly do. This does not elevate them to the top of the Western Conference, just like the Lakers. The Lakers had their problems. They can't play any defense. They don't have a center. The Warriors, do they play enough defense? And then they don't have a center, and they're old. You put this team up against, say, the Celtics. How do they stack up against them? How do they stack up against the Thunder? Or if you're somehow in a series with the Jokic, he's going to eat you alive. You got to put Draymond Green and Trace Jackson Davis on him. Good luck with that. Or post that everyone's losing their mind over. Yeah, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of excitement about the trade deadline and everything that the Warriors might do. But this doesn't make them suddenly a championship team. You can talk about that, you can fantasize about it all you want, but it doesn't. And that's how it is. And I think, what would actually have been best for the Warriors? I know this would be very, very unpopular. I really believe the best thing that could have happened for them is to actually trade Curry and trade the veteran players and realize and just accept with this team, you are not going to win another finals. You're not. You're not even going to make it to another finals. Even if they acquired Durant, as that was what everyone was talking about this morning, was, oh, Durant could possibly come to the Warriors. I don't even care if you get Durant and you plug him in instead. I wouldn't believe that even as great as Kevin Durant still is, and with what Curry has left, that they would get to the finals. So you're not going to do it with Jimmy Butler. So if you really want to give Curry the best opportunity to win another finals, then it would have been trading him to another team. And with all due respect to Curry, probably another team where he's the second best player. I mean, he's a 37-year-old, nearly 37-year-old point guard. He's not LeBron James. He's not aging like LeBron James. He still has some big games. He's still a very good player, but he's not what he was a year or two ago. He's had a long career. He's a top 10 player of all time. You would trade him to give him the best opportunity. And at this point, the Warriors need to be younger and they need to be acquiring more draft capital and looking to build the next team and get the next stars. That's how I see it. And, this is the Warriors. We're not talking about the 49ers, where the expectation has been for decades, you've got to win the Super Bowl. The Warriors were garbage and just an embarrassment for 40 years. Practically 40 years. They never sniffed an NBA Finals. With this group, with Kerr, with Curry, Draymond, Clay, and then the years Durant was here, it was the greatest run of any Barrios sports team, including the 80s 49ers. You went to a total of 6 finals. You won 4 of them. You won 3 out of 4 years. You went to 5 straight finals. You did repeat. I mean, have a little perspective. It was an incredible run. It was entertaining. It was historical. It was one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. You win in 14-15. Yes, you lose in 15-16, but you had the 73 wins, and it was a painful loss. But then you got back the next year, and you won again. And then you won again after that in 16-17, and then 17-18. Okay, you lose in 18-19. That was tough. But then you got one more in 21-22. This is the Warriors. and you have an owner that wants to win. I mean, it is completely changed here. And you need to just be more thankful for what you've had. Appreciate what we've had. Be grateful. Be thankful.